Dit is IB-podcast van Israël en de Bijbel over God, Israël en de Bijbel. Enorm leuk dat je weer luistert naar een nieuwe IB-podcast. Vandaag zit bij mij aan tafel mijn collega Paul uit Israël.
Ja.
Jammer genoeg zonder echtgenoot Sarah, want zij heeft griep. Paul die werkt fulltime in een koffiehuis in Tel Aviv. Een prachtige plek waar Israëli's terecht kunnen voor natuurlijk goede koffie en gesprek, maar zeker ook voor een gratis Bijbel. Paul, Sarah en hun zoontjes zijn even hier in Holland. Afgelopen jaar was een zwaar jaar voor Israël. Door de Gaza-oorlog, de Israëlische gijzelaarskwestie, raketbeschietingen door Hamas, door Hezbollah uit Libanon, vanuit Jemen en niet te vergeten vanuit Iran. Een jaar met verlies, verdriet, angst en trauma's. Maar ook een jaar waarin de aanvragen van Israëli's voor een Nieuw Testament zijn verdubbeld. Het Israël van nu is volgens Paul een vruchtbare grond voor het evangelie. En daarover ga ik onder meer met hem praten. En daarom gaan we nu ook switchen naar het Engels. Dear brother Paul, welcome to a rainy and windy Holland. Not so unfamiliar to you. After all, you lived in Amsterdam for a while, isn't it?
Yeah.
What can you tell me about Amsterdam? It's a special place for you.
Oh yeah, Amsterdam, it's still the city of my heart. It's the place that God prepared for me to really come face to face with him. And yeah, it will forever be a special place. Even though all the things that just happened recently, it's a sad thing, but yeah, still Amsterdam remains a very special place in my heart. Yeah, it will always be like that. So I was a backpacker and I arrived at the shelter hostel because it was the cheapest place I could book. I didn't know it was a Christian place, and probably had I known, I would have avoided it. So my journey with God just
Started there?
I would say even deepened there, because I believe that God was working in my heart since the beginning of times, but that was really the time that he put out something very concrete in front of me to really come and get to know him in a personal way. And that was really what happened. And that's the main thing about my time in the shelter. It was really a time of not just talking about God, but really personally getting to meet him. The result of that was really, for me to acknowledge that I wanted to really have a personal relationship with him. A couple years later, I met my wife in the shelter, and also that makes it even a more special place. So Amsterdam is still the city where we have our papers signed, because we couldn't do it in Israel. We did the ceremony in Israel, but the official documents are actually, and will ever be, from Holland, from Amsterdam. So yeah, also that's
Special place for
very
you.
special place, yeah.
What can you tell me about the Israel you have left some weeks ago?
Yeah, that's the thing about the Israel nowadays. Things change very quickly. And the one thing that remains is this, this heavy atmosphere, like this, I wouldn't say pressure, but it's just this strange, thick air that anything can happen at any moment, and you need to be alert. Yeah, you can't really rest. That's the thing. That's one of the reasons why we decided to just take this break, because we needed a bit of rest away from Israel and from the crazy things that are happening there or around there. But it's still a place that people are very hopeful. I think that's the main thing that keeps us all going, mainly for us who believe in the hope that cannot be moved and shaken. Yeah, God has the last word. So we know that everything that's happening is just one step in this whole story. So that gives us hope to continue. And for everyone else around, I think that's part of it.
Hey, but the world's criticism of Israel is enormous and increasing every day. We see the news. It's not really pro-Israel, even here in Holland.
Yeah, I think what that does, it creates really a feeling amongst Israelis that, just everybody's against them, no matter what they do, when they do good things and when they do bad things. Because, it's true that Israel hasn't done everything correctly. No country would ever, in any situation like this, be able to. Israelis are just feeling very isolated and maybe also afraid. And that doesn't help anyone. So, of course, there are things that should be criticized. I'm not here saying that Israel has carte blanche to do whatever Israel wants, but I think there has to be a balance, and we definitely don't see a balance
Are you now talking about how they responded to the attack of Hamas or in Lebanon?
All of the above, I think, like everything we saw. And again, and also I try to make a differentiation. I think many Israelis more and more do, that what comes in the middle is one thing and what people think is something else. But because we are not all the time in contact with people that have a different view, and you're always the time bombarded by the people that are just very critical and the media that paints Israel as the devil or I don't know what, people live with a feeling that everyone is just against Israel and everything Israel doesn't matter. And then you create also this feeling of like, so then it doesn't matter because even if we do the right things, people will just be critical about Israel. And I think that is true about the attack of Hamas, that even on the same day, people were already criticizing and blaming Israel for what had happened, even before Israel responded.
Is it a matter of surviving?
In what sense?
If Israel is not responding to
yes.
the attacks,
Yes.
wherever they come from 7 fronts now.
Yes.
There will be no Israel anymore?
Yes. That's another thing that people have to understand, that like for people living in Israel, they cannot get away, move around. That's not an option. The only option is to exist. So they cannot just like get murdered all around and continue their lives as if nothing had happened, right? Yeah, things have to be talked through. But also there has to be action. In the end of the day, we can be very theoretical about how, blah, blah, but in the end of the day, you have to make a decision. You have to take action, an action that is decisive, because you do have people and regimes around Israel who are taking action. They are not just talking about it and just being philosophical or theoretical about what they're going to do.
And why are they so focused on Israel, do you think?
There is definitely a spiritual aspect that it's clear to everybody, like since the beginning of the world. The most important person that has changed history, like no one ever has done, comes out of Israel. So it's a strategical area, and it's a connection between Europe, Asia, and Africa. It's a very, very, very relevant bit of land, and it's a very small bit of land. That's one thing that I don't know for whoever is listening, how many people have not been to Israel. But if you have not, you don't understand how small Israel is. I even joke with my wife sometimes. I'm just like, can we just not go somewhere that there's no people, like just to rest a little? But no, it's not an option. It's very small. It's very, very small. So wherever attack comes, it will affect everybody, right? That's the thing also about the attack of Hamas, is that it didn't affect just some people like, there that you heard about. No, everyone in the country at least knows someone who has been affected directly.
Can we speak of a national trauma in Israel after October the 7th?
For sure. That goes without saying. It's a national trauma. It's something that will be remembered in history for forever, maybe. Yeah, it's something that has changed, I think, how things were going. Like, it's really a decisive moment in history for Israel and for the Palestinians and for all the countries around. So much so that we are seeing that the whole world has been thrown into this mix. Because people say, like, they really cared about the issue, but no one was talking and caring so much about it until the 7th of October happened. And then the whole world now is worried about it. So it is a decisive moment that has changed history forever, for sure. And more than that, yeah, in the sense of, like, Israelis in general, because every Israeli has to serve in the army, in the IDF, it is a country that already has a high percentage of people with PTSD and trauma. However, right now, and the way things are going, people that are not in the army are also undergoing trauma. Like you have mothers
waiting for messages about their child, son or daughter.
Son, husband, uncle, daughter. Yeah, they're just waiting for a message from their loved ones to know if they're coming back or not. And have a huge economical burden because many people lost their businesses and everything else. The whole tourism sector in Israel is just shut down. So you also have all the sorts of traumas and problems that people are having to deal with that, definitely for years to come, Israelis will have to be digesting and reliving and seeking help to even heal from that.
Is there now on the moment a special trauma help? And it's a pity Sarah is not here. Can you tell a little bit on her behalf about trauma aid and why it is so special for her?
Yeah. So I think the first thing to say is that because there are so many people, it's really hard to provide with help for everybody. And maybe one of the things that Israelis are critical of their own government is that many times they feel like that there hasn't been enough help. But again, it's something that, if I were in the government, I would ask, how do you reach everybody with what they need? It's pretty much everybody in the country. So I think that's also a very difficult ground to navigate. So with her, what happened is that she didn't even feel worthy of having a trauma and PTSD because she wasn't a combat fighter. Because you always feel that if there is someone that was in a harder situation than you, but in her case, because she wasn't a combat fighter inside the battlefield, she felt like she wasn't worthy of having the trauma and undergoing the trauma. And just the denial of the trauma causes even more complications. So I think that's also what's happening with many people that stay at home and undergoing trauma because they don't know where their loved ones are. But they are also undergoing trauma. That's also a very traumatic experience. So I think that is the first point to acknowledge that it's just because of the quantity of people that are undergoing trauma, it's really complicated to treat. And it's really complicated for the people who are undergoing it to realize that they have and seek help.
And she knows how it is because she experienced it all from the beginning to the healing. And that's why she wants to help.
Exactly.
To give trauma aid.
So right now we have people in the believers community who are really aware of what's going on, and I think that in the past they had already created programs mainly for men, and now there is a huge awareness of women also need to get help. So there is now a team trying to develop a program away from Israel in Switzerland, that they would be taking groups of women that have some sort of trauma with war and be giving them, the time and the help that they actually need to start healing. Because that's another thing about PTSD and trauma, mainly with war, is that it's never just, it's healed. It's something that probably going to carry for the rest of your life, but there's ways to carry it. And there's the possibility of having a healthy way of doing the healing that won't cause even more trauma. So I think that's mainly what the aim is. Sarah should be here to speak about that, but I think the goal is exactly that, to give them even just the understanding that there is support, there is awareness, there is help, and there is people who care, who will be praying for them, but more than that can also be acting and giving them full help.
Hey Paul, you said earlier, today's Israel is fertile soil for the gospel. How do you mean that?
I think that's, in general, what happens with human beings when we undergo real hardship in life. I think really hardship is really the crack that we need to really open up, to really understand that we are not the gods that we believe we are, because I think that's the main thing, mainly in nowadays societies and mainly also in the Western world and Israel included in that we are so individualistic and so self-sufficient that we start believing that we are beyond anything. So I think when there is hardship and we come to the place where we feel like, wow, we don't have everything that it takes to deal with everything that life will bring, I think that's the moment that we crack and we say, hey, where can I look for help? And we acknowledge that there is something beyond us. And that's the first step that you need to actually come to the God that there is, not the God that we create.
But the God of Israel.
The God of Israel. So I think that in Israel, that's really what's happening. It's just so much pain that people are looking for answers, and people are looking for answers beyond their government and beyond human means, but they're really looking for spiritual help and God himself. So I think many people are just praying that he will come and he will help and he will reveal himself even more. For us who know the hope, who have been in that place and who can bring the message, that's really the time to give the help that is being asked for. Plus, I think there's a very interesting thing going on that for a very long time, believers in Israel had to battle the idea that Yeshua is not from Israel, is not from the Jewish tradition, right? Because it's almost this foreign thing. Oh, no, this is from the Christians and that's not from us. So I think that was for the longest time just a battle to say, no, this is the original place of this message. And I think right now, because of all the crazy things that are going around the world and people even claiming, Yeshua is this, Yeshua is that, and things that have nothing to do with historical Yeshua, Israelis are really coming to terms with the fact that, it's actually the thing that changed this whole world, that changed many countries, that created the Western world the way it is actually ours. It came from here. So we've seen many Israelis arguing and talking about how Jewish
Messiah.
how Jewish Yeshua was. So I think in that sense as well, we have at least one barrier less than we used to have. That is just we can start from the point that it's actually people are ready to acknowledge, he was Jewish.
Is that a surprising thing for Israelis? What do
For
they
many,
know about
yes.
Yeshua, about the New Testament? What do they know about the Bible?
Yeah, I think in my first years in Israel, that was the crazy thing that I kind of assumed that everybody knew in the world that he was Jewish and he was from Israel. And even the people who kind of knew, they have no idea what he was claiming and how connected with the story of the Tanakh or the Torah his story was. So I think that was even the people that say, yeah, no, I knew that he was Jewish and so on, but they would say like, but he changed to a different religion. Many times people saying, no, but he adopted their religion. And then I say, whose religion? I say, the Christians' religion. And I say to them, but how is that possible? If he couldn't be following himself, right? He's the beginning of that tradition. But I think that's the point, that people never really had the time to really sit and talk and think about it. Just think very basic about it. Something that we don't see in Israel yet. That if you ask a regular Israeli, even one who knows that he is Jewish and he was living in Israel, if you ask him, what was his basic message? What is his claim? These very basic things that you assume that everybody would know, even if they don't agree with it. I think that's not very clear. It's still in the minds of many. Yeah, at least in my experience, yeah.
Hey, but do you have talks like this in the coffee house? Is that the way you are talking with people about?
Yeah, many times.
Yeshua?
I think conversations many times can get very, how can you say, just like very down to specific details that maybe are interesting, but not the core message. So what I try to do is, let's talk about these details, but I always try to come back to the main thing. And what's the main thing? The main thing is that everyone, whether you believe you're a good person or a bad person, everyone needs at least some sort of salvation in their lives, some sort of hope eternal that only a perfect God could deliver. And that's his promise, not just in the New Testament. In the Hebrew scriptures, his promise is that upon seeing everything that human beings had done, he says, I will do it. He says, one day I'll bring you a Brit Chadasha, a new covenant, not one of the law, but one of the heart. That is what actually he's talking about, with himself coming and making the way so that we wouldn't just try to follow the 100 laws, I don't know how many, 613 laws people say, but actually that we could live a life with him, the one who is the perfect of our faith and who has delivered us from all the brokenness that there is in this world. And I think that's a message that I'm not going to say everyone's ready to receive. I think lots of people are still thinking that, no, I don't need anyone. I'm perfect. I'm great. Or I'm good the way I am. But more and more, and mainly when people undergo hardships in life, I think that's the message that we try to communicate. But there's so many different kinds of conversations. Like when people say, how do you have the conversation? Every conversation goes so differently than the previous one.
Yeah, because sometimes they visit the cafe and some of them return. You had a very long conversation with a specific Israeli who's returning and come back all the time.
Yeah, I think that's the advantage. A cafe ministry, it's not just something that we'll go once and talk to a person and then, throw these ideas in the air and then pray for them, which is also great. I'm not saying that's not a great way of doing things, but I think we have an advantage over that is we'll continue the conversations, but more than that, the relationships. That's the main thing, because we can be just saying these things, throwing these things in the air. If people are not seeing the difference that these things make, does this faith actually stand true when we apply into the world we live in? That's what people are interested in. So I think by building relationships, by seeing people again and again, by having more and more conversations, by talking to them about, what happened in my life, and hey, how is your life? And then digesting these things and talking about what makes the difference in anyone's lives. And how come?
So you're building up a relation,
exactly,
and that makes them return, and you can continue.
Want to know the conversation and want to know more about the faith. So we just now opened the second cafe. Yeah, we started with a much smaller cafe. Just now, a month and a half ago, we opened the second venue, which is way bigger and a better location. But in the first one, what we had, even though we didn't have so many people coming because the location wasn't the best, we did have a lot of time also to just sit, and it was a very homey atmosphere. So lots of people felt very comfortable just sitting and having a cup of coffee and talking to us. And I really just enjoyed that as well. So I've had conversations with people for at least the year and a half that we've been open over and over again, and different things from different aspects and so on. And we managed to offer them scriptures, and they would accept, and then they would read and come and ask. So I think that's the blessing of having a place where people can come to, which I think it's something that every church should be. And I think maybe sometimes we fail. Sometimes we create spaces in church that people feel like only believers can come to. So the aspect of having it in a cafe, in a business, makes anyone feel like, okay, doesn't matter. Even if people don't want to talk, that's another thing. There are lots of people that they don't want to talk, or people that are very against, because we're very open about who we are when people come in.
They know it's run by Messianic believers?
By believers in Yeshua, and the Jewish people and non-Jews together. And we're very open. That's the whole thing. We're not hiding who we are. If people ask, we're very, very open. And there are people who came and said, "Oh, I don't like that," and left. And that's okay. Like we're not there to force anyone. We pray. Maybe God will change their hearts and they'll come to talk again. But I think also that gives the space for the people who are really seeking and really want to know to come and talk and come again and again. And that was also the story in my life. The story in my life is that I was in a place, in a house and so on, but it was an open space for me to come again and again. And there were days that I didn't want to talk, and there were days that I didn't want to think. But the days that I did, the space was ready, and the people were ready, and the people were willing. So I think that's the main point.
So that's what you do in the cafe. Yeah. You serve coffee.
And I make great coffee.
You're praying and you're ready.
No, it's exactly that.
Talk about Yeshua.
That's
the moment.
That's how we train our baristas, is to say, look, we're going to make great coffee, and we're working with specialty coffee, and we're very serious about what we're doing, the business aspect of things, and the coffee we're making. We want to also serve the best thing, because we want to also show love through the quality of the coffee. Also, that brings people back. We also need to run the business aspect of it, the money for it. But what we say to the baristas is, whenever you look at someone coming in, you're not looking at just another cup of coffee. You're looking at your brother and your sister created by the gods of this whole world, and treat them likewise. So smile, be friendly, ask how their day is going. Mainly in Israel, in a country that there's so many troubles right now, let us be the shoulder that people need to be. Like, we are here with a message of hope. So let us be this shoulder of hope, a warm shoulder of hope. Go and ask, hey, how are you doing? How's your day? That's how we ready ourselves.
Is there also any opposition?
So far, we got very little, I must say. We're in Tel Aviv. That's one aspect of it, because Tel Aviv is kind of seen of, like, I assume, by the release almost like, that's the sin city, so they don't care so much about things going on. But again, I don't have all the experience. I think other people that have been working for longer can speak better on that. But what we did have was even the first week, I think, of opening the new place, which is a much bigger place, much more central, calls much more attention. We had one guy from a magazine, a big coffee magazine in Israel, come and do a whole interview, and it was really amazing. And he wanted to know everything, and asked about everything, the business and the cafe and our vision, our faith, wrote everything in a very nice light and put it out. But then someone read that magazine, and they are from a different newspaper, I don't even know what kind. They came and they did like 2-minute interview with one of us, and didn't ask much and so on, and ripped the other article, but in a funny light, making fun of the fact that we were believers in Yeshua, and who would think believers in Yeshua is specialty coffee in the middle of Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv is really a surprising city and so on, but really, really in a mocking way, almost. Yeah, it's not nice to read, but brought a lot of more people as well. So that's pretty much the opposition we had so far, was more things like that. But
do you also have now more contact in the cafe with Israeli soldiers, militaries?
So we do have many soldiers that come, but also because we did the beginning of the war, many people closed their businesses. So we actually had closed the cafe, and we didn't know when to reopen it. So we decided that, well, we have the skills and we have the equipment to actually make coffee wherever. So we took whatever equipment we could on a van, and we went to the soldiers. So we served coffee, cookies, maybe some cakes and so on, for free, everything for free. and just wanted to talk to them and serve them in a way and ask, hey, how are you doing? the same way that we do in the cafe. So through that, I think also many people now come back to visit us because we've been to their base and know of the cafe and come around the cafe. And also because close to the cafe, there are bases and people that come, and we still plan to go back to that and do more of that. It's just that opening 2 cafes and running 2 cafes, still it's a challenging time. But once we have everything running smoothly, we hope to be doing more. Well, actually, we hope that it won't be needed, but as long as it is needed to serve the soldiers, even something this small, just with coffee and a shoulder, I think, we want to be doing it. So,
is there a solution for the conflict in the Middle East? Is there a solution for the conflict between Arabs and Jews?
Only Yeshua. It seems like an easy answer for me to say as I believe in Yeshua, but I really believe in that. It's not just saying that for the sake of I'm a believer and therefore that's what I would say. But it's really only when people can really acknowledge who God is and how he created things to be, then we can see the value of human lives, whether it's an Arab or a Jew, and everything else around of politics and other sort of conflicts and so on. So I think really what's happening here, it's not just a war of, people say that it's a territorial war. It's definitely not a territorial war. It's a war between worldviews, mindsets and worldviews that are set by the belief on what you value the most and what we are doing here on this earth. In the Islam, people believe one thing. In Judaism, people believe a second thing. In secularism, people believe a third thing, and so on and on and on. So, unfortunately, as long as we don't see what is really the truth, and truth is not relative, truth is absolute. It doesn't matter how much we try to relativize it. In the end of the day, green is green, blue is blue, or yellow is yellow. Yeah, things will not be solved. We're just going to be beating around the bush and creating more problems. This is not something new. That's the story of the Bible, of the Tanakh, is that whenever we think we are so smart to fix the problems, we're actually just creating something worse and worse and worse and worse. Truly, I don't see, and I might be wrong, but I don't see any other way but people coming to see the full truth.
Yeah, because a lot of people, they are doubting about bringing the gospel to Jews.
Yes, unfortunately, that's a lie. That's a lie. Everyone. That was the call that Yeshua gave to his followers who were Jews, to the Jewish people as well. They said, it's from here and then to the whole world. That was the message. Paul also talks about that in the New Testament over and over again. It's crazy that we come to a time where we think that this message is not relevant or people shouldn't be talking about it. That's another thing that people say, you cannot be talking about this thing, or otherwise you are a missionary, or whatever words that people coin that it has a bad connotation. And I say, but that's the main point. If we're not talking to people about what's the truth, that's what everybody does. Even if you believe in something different, you're always talking about the things that you believe to be true. So why should believers in Yeshua who believe that
why should we be silent about the Messiah?
Why should we be silent about the most important thing in the world that we see that changed the world forever? Why would we be silent about that? Why are we refraining from the message and saying, no, but let's see, blah, blah. People are preaching down our throats all the time what they believe to be the truth. I have a mentor, more than a friend, who says the world's preaching for the longest time the unholy trinity, that me, myself, and I. Why is it a problem for us then to be talking about the true Trinity, who is God, His Son, and the Holy Spirit? This message should not be a message that we can even refrain from. If it's that important, that's core to the whole world, then yeah, of course I'm going to be talking about it. Of course I want, and it's a free message. That's another thing. We're not having to pay. It's a free message you got by grace, and you give by grace out of the love you have for the next person, not because you want to convert them and create some. I don't know what people think the motivation is, but the motivation is simply, if you love someone, you want the best for them. And if you want the best for them and you do believe that you have the best because you believe in the best, because you believe in the truth, then you're going to pass it on. That is Yeshua.
We are going to end our conversation with that. Paul, thank you very, very much. And get well soon to Sarah.
Thank you.
In any case, we will meet you both, God willing, at our annual conference day in May 2025. You will be in Holland again. So hopefully the two of you and the kids, of course.
God willing.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
talk. Luisteraar, Jij ook enorm bedankt voor het luisteren. We hebben even met Paul gesproken over het werk in Israël, in het koffiehuis in Tel Aviv. Hij heeft nog eens benadrukt hoe belangrijk het ook is om het evangelie van de Heer Jezus te brengen. Ook in Israël. Dank je wel voor het luisteren. Graag tot de volgende podcast. En voor nu, shalom.